He ignored her call for the fifth time that night, not because he didn't see it, but because the woman in his arms mattered more in that moment. Tae-sung Kim, Korea's most powerful real estate billionaire, sat high above Seoul's glowing skyline, his empire worth billions, while his wife sat alone at home, shaking, holding a phone that carried news she might never get to say out loud. She wasn't calling to argue. She wasn't calling to accuse him of cheating. She was calling because the doctors had just told her she was dying. 6 months. Maybe less. But the man who promised to love her for a lifetime couldn't spare 5 minutes. That night, while Tae-sung crossed a line that would destroy his marriage forever, his wife made a decision that would change his life in ways money could never fix. And by the time he finally listened, it was already too late. This is the story of a Korean billionaire who cheated on his wife, who raised his legacy. Hey everyone, I'm back with another heart-stopping Afro-Korean love story that's guaranteed to leave you breathless. Before we dive into this billionaire CEO's shocking discovery, tap that like button if you're a fan of dramatic family reunions. I see you out there watching. Drop a comment with your country so our global family can connect in the thread. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next twist in this unforgettable series. All right, let's step back into the story. Hae-jin sat alone in their vast living room, her trembling hands gripping her phone. She has urgent news that cannot wait another day. But her husband remains beyond reach, lost in corporate deals and secret affairs. 5 days ago, Hae-jin received devastating medical results. Stage 4 metastatic cancer spreading through her body. The oncologist's words were direct and final. Perhaps 6 months remain. Aggressive treatment might extend that to 8 or 9. She has tried constantly to tell Tae-sung. Every attempt meets the same obstacles. Urgent business calls, critical meetings, Ji-won's strategic interruptions that keep him perpetually occupied. The words stay trapped inside, growing heavier with each silent hour. The cruel irony weighs on Hae-jin. She married a man with unlimited resources, believing security and partnership would follow. Instead, she's learned that money cannot purchase genuine attention, and ambition often demands sacrificing everything tender and true. Their marriage started 19 years ago with real affection and shared aspirations. Tae-sung was ambitious then, but still attentive, promising that eventually his hard work would create time for them together. Hae-jin, formerly a celebrated violinist who performed across Europe, abandoned her career to support his ascent. Year after year, the distance expanded. Business trips stretched longer. Dinners were perpetually canceled. Conversations became purely functional. Hae-jin watched her husband harden into someone almost unrecognizable. Colder, more calculating, perpetually focused on the next strategic conquest. Now she stands on their terrace overlooking the glowing city, feeling profoundly isolated despite sharing her home with another person. Their marriage survives only as paperwork, a social performance they maintain for shareholders and relatives. The love that once bound them lies buried beneath financial reports and board meetings. Hae-jin's efforts to reach Tae-sung follow a heartbreaking pattern. Monday morning, she approaches him during breakfast as he monitors overnight construction reports from Dubai. Tae-sung, I need to talk about something critical. He cuts her off without eye contact. Not now. The Incheon development closes in 2 hours. Tuesday afternoon, she sends a carefully worded text. Please call immediately. It's about my health. Extremely urgent. 7 hours pass before his response arrives. Meetings until midnight. Tomorrow morning. Tomorrow never comes. Wednesday evening. She books their favorite restaurant from their courtship days, hoping the familiar setting might create space for honest conversation. 2 hours before the reservation, he cancels via text. Video conference with investors in Singapore cannot be postponed. Meanwhile, Ji-won's influence grows increasingly obvious, arriving earlier each day, departing later each night. Her control over Tae-sung's schedule absolute. Hae-jin suspects their relationship extends beyond professional boundaries, though she's too exhausted by illness and isolation to investigate thoroughly. Tae-sung Kim constructed his empire through calculated risks and relentless determination. After inheriting a struggling regional construction firm from his father, he expanded aggressively into commercial development, luxury housing, and infrastructure projects. His personal fortune now exceeds $21 billion. His business tactics analyze in executive training programs internationally. Business associates describe a man of extraordinary intelligence and formidable presence. His sharp eyes notice every weakness. His questions expose flaws others miss entirely. He demands absolute perfection and compensates exceptional performance generously. But those who once loved him more still try to see something different. A man who has forgotten vulnerability, who evaluates every interaction by its strategic benefit, who has replaced emotional connection with efficiency protocols. G1 serves as far more than his secretary. She anticipates his requirements, controls his schedule, protects him from disruptions. Their relationship has evolved beyond professional boundaries, though Tae-sung avoids acknowledging this reality even privately. Late on Thursday evening, Hyejin positions herself between Tae-sung and his study entrance. "I saw a specialist," she states firmly. "I have cancer. Advanced stage. The diagnosis is terminal." Tae-sung pauses, his expression shifting with what might be concern. "Cancer? Which type? Have you consulted our corporate medical team?" His reaction is clinical, solution-focused rather than emotionally engaged. "Metastatic. Multiple organs. I need to begin making decisions about treatment and final arrangements. I'll connect you with the chief oncologist at Samsung Medical. Best specialist in Asia. We'll pursue second opinions. Third if required. Don't concern yourself with expenses. Tae-sung, I need you to truly understand." His phone buzzes. He glances down. "I must take this. Hong Kong market opening. We'll discuss the medical strategy tomorrow. Absolutely." He moves past her and closes the study door. Hyejin stands in the corridor, realizing that even terminal cancer cannot compete with market fluctuations and acquisition negotiations. That night, while Tae-sung works through property valuations, Hyejin makes a decision. She will leave, not dramatically, not with confrontation, but quietly, the way she has existed for years. She packs one suitcase, practical clothing, several books, photographs from before their marriage. She abandons a designer wardrobe, the jewelry collection, all symbols of a lifestyle that provided everything except what mattered. Her violin stands silent in the apartment corner, untouched for months. She once dreamed of recording a solo album, of teaching music to talented students. Those dreams were sacrificed to accommodate Tae-sung's ambitions. Before departing, Hyejin records a voice message on his phone. Her words are measured yet heartfelt. "Tae-sung, when you finally hear this, I'll be gone. The doctors estimate maybe 6 months remaining. I tried repeatedly to tell you, but there was never time, never space for anything that didn't align with your strategic objectives. I'm not bitter anymore, just exhausted. Exhausted from being invisible in my own marriage. Exhausted from waiting for moments that never materialize. I'm going to spend whatever time remains somewhere that feels genuine, somewhere I can remember who I was before becoming Mrs. Kim. I loved you completely. I hope somewhere beneath the empire and the achievements, you remember what that felt like. Perhaps when I'm gone, you'll finally have time to reflect on what you traded for all this success. Take care. Don't repeat the same mistakes with whoever follows." Tae-sung notices the notification of Hyejin's voice message appear on his screen during a late-night planning session. 53 unread messages compete for attention. He dismisses it, his focus consumed by the approaching merger with a Chinese real estate conglomerate. A $3.4 billion deal that will expand his reach throughout Asia. Ji-won brings espresso, her hand resting on his shoulder. "You should rest," she suggests. "You've been working 22 hours straight." The boundary they've carefully maintained finally dissolves. In the privacy of his office, exhaustion and proximity lead to choices that deepen the betrayal of his absent wife. Meanwhile, Hyejin rides through darkness in a taxi heading southeast. She has quietly accumulated savings over the years, an emergency fund she hoped never to use. Her destination, a small village in Gangwon province where her grandmother's traditional house still stands, overlooking terraced fields and mountains. Dawn arrives as Hyejin reaches the village of Pyeongchang. The air feels different here, pure, carrying scent of pine and earth. The traditional house requires work, but it feels authentic in ways her luxury apartment never did. She unpacks her few belongings, opens windows to allow fresh air through rooms filled with memories. This is where she spent childhood summers, where her grandmother taught her to preserve vegetables and shared stories about resilience and finding joy in simple things. Back in Seoul, Tae-sung remains absorbed in final preparations for the merger announcement. He doesn't notice Hae-jin's absence at breakfast. He doesn't register the unusual quietness in their apartment. His entire consciousness focuses on the billions at stake, the power this deal will consolidate. 2 full days pass before Tae-sung truly notices. He returns home past midnight, depleted from negotiations, and something feels wrong. The apartment is too still, too hollow. He walks through rooms, observing small absences. Hae-jin's everyday shoes missing from the entryway, her reading glasses gone from the bedside table, empty spaces where photographs once stood. In their bedroom, he opens her closet to find designer gowns intact, but casual clothes removed. Her jewelry box remains full. Her passport is missing. A cold sensation spreads through his chest. Not quite panic, but the first recognition that something significant has shifted. He checks his phone, scrolling back through days of ignored messages and calls. 47 missed calls from Hae-jin over the past week. Text marked unread. And then he sees it. The voice message from 2 nights ago, still unplayed. Security footage confirms what he's beginning to understand. Cameras captured Hae-jin leaving at 3:12 a.m., a single suitcase in hand, looking back once at the building before entering a taxi. Business calls flood his phone, urgent matters requiring immediate decisions. For the first time in his career, Tae-sung allows them to ring unanswered. Tae-sung sits in the darkness of their bedroom and finally presses play on Hae-jin's message. Her voice fills the room, calm, sorrowful, resigned. As her words unfold, something inside him fractures. The clinical facts of her diagnosis, the repeated attempts to tell him, her isolation, her decision to leave, the quiet acceptance that she had never truly been his priority. He plays it again and again. Each repetition drives the reality deeper. For the first time since his father's funeral 16 years ago, Tae-sung weeps, raw, convulsive grief mixed with shame so profound it feels physical. He has become exactly what he swore he'd never be, a man who sacrificed everything meaningful for achievements that suddenly feel hollow. His father had died alone in his office, surrounded by contracts and financial reports, estranged from his family. Tae-sung had looked at that scene with contempt, promising himself a different path. Yet here he stands, having replicated the same pattern with ruthless efficiency. Dawn finds Tae-sung making calls of a different nature. He terminates Ji-won's employment immediately, severing all ties to the relationship that enabled his worst choices. He cancels meetings scheduled for the next 3 weeks. He informs the board that the merger will proceed without his direct involvement. They can finalize details or withdraw. He no longer cares. His colleagues' shock protests, the board's fury, the potential collapse of the deal, none of it registers as important anymore. Tae-sung hires Korea's premier private investigation firm with a single directive. Find my wife. Spare no expense. I need to know her location within 24 hours. He spends the day in their apartment, truly seeing for the first time. Photographs reveal the progression of their relationship. Early pictures show Hae-jin vibrant and radiant. Later images capture increasing distance in her eyes, forced smiles that don't reach her face. He finds her music, recordings from her performing days, programs from concerts she gave before they married. He had attended those performances once, captivated by her talent and passion. When had he stopped seeing that part of her? By evening, the investigators have located Hae-jin in Pyeongchang, staying in a traditional house registered to her grandmother's estate. They provide address details, photographs of the property, confirmation that she's alive but appears unwell. Tae-sung drives through the night, his luxury sedan racing down highways toward the mountains. The journey gives him hours to think, to remember, to confront the systematic destruction of his marriage through 10,000 small acts of neglect. He recalls moments he dismissed, Hae-jin mentioning she'd like to return to music someday, her request that they take a vacation together, her quiet presence at company events where he barely acknowledged her, the gradual fading of her light as she accommodated herself to the role of invisible wife. The village appears in early morning mist. Traditional houses scatter among fields, mountains rising in the background. It's beautiful in ways Taesung's urban world has forgotten to value. Taesung finds the house easily. The front door stands slightly open. He calls Hye-jin's name, receiving no response. Inside, he discovers her collapsed on the floor, conscious but in severe pain. The cancer's progression has accelerated. She's experiencing acute symptoms requiring immediate medical intervention. Taesung, her voice is weak, confused. How did you? I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He's already dialing emergency services. His business crisis management skills finally apply to something that matters. The ambulance arrives within 18 minutes. Taesung rides with her to the regional hospital, holding her hand, whispering apologies she may not hear. Medical staff work quickly for fluids, pain management, scans to assess the cancer's current state. The oncologist report confirms Hye-jin's prognosis. The disease is aggressive and advanced. Treatment options exist, but offer extension rather than cure. Months, not years. Taesung listens to every word, asking detailed questions. Finally giving Hye-jin's health the focused attention he once reserved exclusively for quarterly earnings. For 6 days, Taesung never leaves the hospital. He sleeps in the chair beside Hye-jin's bed, learns the schedules of medications and treatments, speaks with specialists about palliative care options. Hye-jin, stabilized and more comfortable with proper pain management, watches this transformation with cautious hope mixed with sadness. You don't have to do this, she says one afternoon. You have your company, your deals. None of that matters. You matter. I should have understood that 19 years ago, or 10 years ago, or even last week. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. Their conversations deepen. Hye-jin talks about the dreams she set aside, not with resentment, but with honest grief for paths not taken. She describes the loneliness of living beside someone who never truly saw her. Taesung listens without defensiveness, accepting responsibility for his failures. He tells her about the voice message, how it shattered the illusions he'd maintained about their marriage. I thought providing for you financially was enough, he admits. I thought building an empire meant I was succeeding at everything. I was so catastrophically wrong. I know you love me in your way, Hye-jin replies. You just love success more. The truth of this hangs between them, painful but necessary. After stabilization, Hye-jin makes a request. She wants to return to the village house, not to a hospital in Seoul. She wants her remaining time surrounded by nature and peace, not sterile medical environments and urban noise. Taesung makes it happen. He arranges for comprehensive home health care, equipment, nursing staff, regular physician visits. He transforms a traditional house into a space that honors both Hye-jin's wishes and her medical needs. Most significantly, he arranges for a violin to be delivered, a beautiful instrument position where Hye-jin can see the mountains through open doors. When she's strong enough, Hye-jin plays again. Her fingers find familiar melodies, and music fills the house for the first time in decades. Taesung sits nearby, finally still enough to listen, finally present enough to witness her joy. He learns to help with her care personally, not delegating to nurses, but participating in the intimate work of supporting someone through illness, making tea, adjusting pillows, reading aloud when she's too tired to hold books. News of the merger's collapse reaches Taesung through terse messages from the board. Without his personal involvement, negotiations fell apart. The Chinese partners withdrew. Billions in projected value evaporated. The board calls an emergency meeting, threatening to remove Taesung as CEO. Shareholders demand explanations. Media outlets speculate about the sudden absence of the legendary executive. Taesung responds with a single statement. He's taking indefinite medical leave to care for his wife. He transfers operational control to the executive board. He directs his personal legal team to establish a foundation, the Hye-jin Kim Foundation for Music and Healing, funded by a substantial portion of his assets. The business world reacts with shock and criticism. Competitors see weakness. Allies feel abandoned. His net worth plummets as stock prices fall. None of it touches Taesung. He has finally discovered what truly constitutes wealth, and it has nothing to do with market capitalization. The months that follow bring a different kind of richness. Taesung learns about hygiene in ways he never took time for during their marriage. He discovers her love of classical poetry, her fascination with traditional Korean garden design, her sharp wit that he'd been too distracted to notice. They talk about regrets openly. Hygiene wishes she'd fought harder to maintain her own identity. Taesung wishes he'd value presence over productivity. Will you promise me something? Hygiene asks one evening as they watch sunset over the mountains. Anything. When I'm gone, don't return to that life. Use what you've learned. Help other people avoid this mistake. Show them that success means nothing if you're alone at the end. Taesung promises. They find forgiveness, not dramatic or instant, but gradual and real. Hygiene forgives Taesung's absences. Taesung learns to forgive himself, though that proves harder. On a clear autumn evening, Hygiene asks Taesung to help her to the violin. Her strength is failing, but she has one more thing she wants to share. I composed this over the past few weeks, she explains. It's called The Silent Years. Will you learn it with me? Taesung has never played an instrument, but he sits beside his wife, and she guides his hands across the strings, teaching him the melody note by note. The music is simple but profound, a conversation between two parts, sometimes in harmony, sometimes calling out to each other across distance, ultimately finding unity in the final phrases. They play together as the sun sets, Taesung stumbling through the notes, Hygiene correcting him gently. When they finish, she leans against his shoulder. Now you'll always have something of me, she whispers. When you play this, remember what matters. That night, Hygiene passes away peacefully, Taesung holding her hand, the melody still echoing in the room. 3 years later, the Hygiene Kim Foundation celebrates the opening of its first major facility in Seoul, a center dedicated to music therapy for patients with terminal illnesses and their families. The building design incorporates traditional Korean elements with modern accessibility, performance spaces, private music rooms, gardens for reflection, all free to those who need them. Taesung no longer runs a real estate empire. He resigned completely from the business world. Instead, he works at the foundation, often teaching basic violin to children facing their own health battles or to adults learning to reconnect with buried creative passions. He lives simply now, in a modest apartment, his time devoted to work that honors Hygiene's memory and their hard-learned truths. At the foundation's opening ceremony, Taesung speaks to assembled guests. My wife tried to tell me something crucial for months before she died. I was too busy to listen. By the time I finally heard her voice, I'd lost years we could have shared. I built a multi-billion-dollar empire. I achieved everything the world calls success. And I was the poorest man I knew, because I didn't understand that time is the only currency that truly matters. Presence is the only wealth worth accumulating. This foundation exists to remind all of us. Answer the call. Listen to the voice. Be there before it's too late, because some opportunities don't come twice. The center opens its doors, and music fills the spaces, different from the silence that once defined Taesung's life. Full of connection and presence and the understanding that came too late for him, but might reach others in time. 6 months after the foundation's opening, Taesung sits alone in his modest apartment. Sorting through boxes of Hygiene's belongings he's finally ready to examine. Among them, he discovers a leather journal, her private diary spanning the last 5 years of their marriage. With trembling hands, he opens to the first entry. Her handwriting is elegant, controlled. March 15th, Taesung canceled dinner again. Ji-won called him away for an emergency meeting. I wonder if he notices how often these emergencies coincide with our plans. I'm not naive. I see the way she looks at him, the way he doesn't look at me anymore. He continues reading, each entry a dagger to his heart. Pages document her growing isolation, her suspicions about his affair, her attempts to reconnect, her slow acceptance of invisibility. One entry from 8 months before her diagnosis reads, I've stopped trying to compete with his empire. I've stopped trying to matter. Some days, I wonder if I disappeared, how long would it take him to notice? A day? A week? Would Ju-won tell him, or would she be relieved? Tae-sung closes a journal, unable to continue. The guilt he thought he'd processed comes roaring back with renewed intensity. He had known, on some level, what he was doing. He had chosen the affair, chosen the business, chosen everything except hygiene. The doorbell rings. Tae-sung opens it to find Mr. Park, his former driver of 15 years, standing nervously in the hallway. Mr. Park? What brings you here? The elderly man bows deeply. Forgive the intrusion, sir. I heard about the foundation, about what you're doing now. I needed to speak with you. Tae-sung invites him in, making tea. A simple act he's learned in his new life. Sir, I need to tell you something I've carried for 3 years. The night Mrs. Kim left, I was finishing my shift in the garage. I saw her leaving with her suitcase. She looked so frail, so alone. Mr. Park's voice breaks. She asked me to call a taxi. I offered to drive her myself, but she refused. She didn't want to trouble anyone. That's who she was. Even leaving, even dying, she didn't want to be a burden. Before she left, she gave me an envelope. She made me promise to give it to you only after she was gone, and only if I thought you had truly changed. Mr. Park pulls out a worn envelope from his jacket. I think she would want you to have this now. Alone again, Tae-sung opens the envelope with shaking hands. Inside is a letter dated the night she left. My dearest Tae-sung, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I hope you found some peace. I'm writing this because there are things I couldn't say in a voice message, things I need you to understand. I don't blame you for Ji-won. That's not entirely true. I did blame you. I was angry. I was hurt. But I've come to understand that she was a symptom, not the cause. The real problem was that we lost each other long before she arrived. You asked me once, years ago, what I wanted from life. I said I wanted to make beautiful music and share it with the world. You promised you'd help me do that. Do you remember? We were young then, full of dreams. But somewhere along the way, my dreams became secondary to yours. And I let that happen. I share the blame for what we became. I should have fought harder for myself. For us. Instead, I made myself smaller and smaller until I nearly disappeared entirely. The cancer, in a strange way, was a gift. It forced me to remember who I was before I became Mrs. Kim. It gave me permission to choose myself. Finally, I hope you find someone someday who teaches you to balance ambition with love. I hope you learn that success means nothing if you're alone. I hope you remember that the most precious thing we have is time, and we can never get it back once it's gone. I forgive you, Tae-sung. More importantly, I hope you learn to forgive yourself. With love, always Hygiene. Tae-sung reads the letter 7 times. Each time, he understands more deeply the magnitude of what he lost and what Hygiene lost because of him. 3 weeks later, while teaching a violin class at the foundation, Tae-sung notices a woman watching from the doorway. She's in her early 40s, wearing a hospital bracelet, her head wrapped in a colorful scarf. After class, she approaches. Mr. Kim, I'm Soo-min Lee. I'm a patient here, breast cancer, stage 3. I wanted to thank you for this place. Please, just call me Tae-sung. And you don't need to thank me. But I do. My husband is like you were, a successful businessman, always working, always busy. When I was diagnosed 6 months ago, I thought it would change things. It didn't. He still works 18-hour days. He still prioritizes everything else. Tae-sung feels a familiar stab of recognition. Have you told him how you feel? Constantly. But he doesn't hear me. Or maybe he does, but he doesn't understand yet. Soo-min smiles sadly. I read about your story in the newspaper. About your wife. I keep hoping my husband will have his moment of clarity before it's too late. Would you like me to speak with him? Soo-min's eyes fill with tears. Would you? I don't know if it would help, but I have to try everything. 2 days later, Tae-sung sits across from Jae-hyun Lee, Soo-min's husband, in a cafe. Jae-hyun is exactly what Tae-sung was. Expensive suit, constantly checking his phone, radiating impatience. My wife insisted I meet you, Jae-hyun says curtly. I have 30 minutes. That's exactly what I used to say. Tae-sung replies. Everything was measured in minutes, in efficiency, in whether it contributed to the bottom line. He tells his story, not the sanitized version from the Foundation's promotion materials, but the brutal truth, the affair, the ignored calls, the voice message he didn't listen to, finding hygiene collapsed and alone. Jae-hyun's phone buzzes repeatedly. He ignores it for the first time, his attention fixed on Tae-sung. Your wife has cancer. She's trying to tell you something that you're not hearing. I had billions of dollars, and it bought me nothing when it mattered. No amount of money could buy back the years I wasted. No amount of success could fill the emptiness when she was gone. But she's not dying. Jae-hyun protests weakly. The doctors say the prognosis is good. That's what I told myself, too. It's not that serious. There's time. I'll pay for the best treatment. But treatment isn't what she needs most from you. She needs you, present, listening, choosing her. Tae-sung leans forward. I'm not telling you to quit your job or abandon your career. I'm telling you to find balance before it's too late. Because I promise you, on her deathbed, she won't care about your quarterly earnings. And when she's gone, your empire will feel like ashes in your mouth. Over the following months, Tae-sung becomes an unexpected advocate. Word spreads about the businessman who lost everything that mattered and found redemption. He begins receiving invitations to speak. Not at business conferences, but at marriage retreats, cancer support groups, and corporate wellness programs. At first, he declines. Who is he to give advice? But then he remembers Hygiene's final request. Help others avoid this mistake. His first speaking engagement is at a marriage counseling center. Standing before 40 couples, many showing signs of strain, Tae-sung feels exposed and vulnerable. I'm not here to judge anyone, he begins. I'm here to tell you what it cost me to learn what really matters. My wife died believing she was invisible to me. And the tragedy is, she was right. He shares the details, the affair, the neglect, the terminal diagnosis he was too busy to hear. The room is silent. Some people crying, others holding their partner's hands tighter. The person sitting next to you chose you. They chose to build a life with you. Don't make them regret that choice by making them compete with your phone, your job, your ambitions. They shouldn't have to almost die to get your attention. After his talk, 3 men approach him separately. Each confesses to having affairs. Each admits to prioritizing work over family. Each asks the same question. Is it too late for me? I don't know. Tae-sung answers honestly. But it's definitely too late if you don't try. Start today. Start now. 4 months after their cafe meeting, Tae-sung receives a call from Soo-min. Her voice is bright, stronger. I wanted you to know Jae-hyun quit his job. Well, not quit exactly. He negotiated to work from home 3 days a week. He's here, Tae-sung. He's really here. We're cooking together, watching movies, talking like we used to. Tae-sung feels warmth spread through his chest. I'm so happy for you. My cancer is in remission. The doctors are optimistic. But more than that, I have my husband back. Whatever time we have, whether it's 50 years or 5, we'll spend it together, really together. After the call, Tae-sung sits quietly, feeling something he hasn't felt in years, pride. Not the hollow pride of completed business deal, but genuine satisfaction in having made a difference in someone's life. One evening, Tae-sung arrives home to find someone waiting outside his apartment building. Even from a distance, he recognizes her, Ji-won, his former secretary and mistress. She looks different, thinner, older, her expensive clothes replaced with simple attire. I know I have no right to be here, she says without preamble. But I needed to apologize. Tae-sung's first instinct is to turn away, but he stops. Hygiene forgave him. Can he do less? Come up. We should talk. In his apartment, Ji-won looks around at the modest space, so different from the luxury he once inhabited. I heard about what you're doing. The foundation. The speaking. I'm glad. Why are you here, Ji-won? She takes a shaky breath. Because I've been carrying this guilt for 3 years. I knew Mrs. Kim was trying to reach you. I deliberately scheduled meetings, created emergencies, kept you distracted. I told myself I was just doing my job, but I knew what I was doing. Tears streamed down her face. And then I found out about her cancer, about how she died alone in that village at first. And I realized I helped kill your marriage. I was so focused on having you to myself that I didn't care who got hurt. That night in the office, she continues, I initiated it. I knew exactly what I was doing. I thought if we crossed that line, you'd finally leave her for me. But you never would have, would you? Even at your worst, some part of you still loved her. Tae-sung considers this. I did love her. I just forgot how to show it. But Ji-won, you weren't the cause. You were convenient. Yes, you made it easier for me to avoid my marriage. But I made the choices. I ignored the calls. I prioritized the wrong things. I'm seeing a therapist now. Ji-won says, working through why I thought being the other woman was acceptable, why I thought I deserved someone else's husband. She looks at him directly. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. Deeply, truly sorry. After she leaves, Tae-sung sits in the darkness, reflecting on how many people were damaged by his choices. Hyejin most of all, but also Ji-won, who built her life around an affair that was always going to end in pain. 2 years after Hyejin's death, the foundation has grown beyond Tae-sung's initial vision. There are now 3 centers across Korea, with plans for 2 more. But more significantly, the foundation has launched a program called Presence Project, workshops for couples dealing with serious illness, teaching them how to be truly present for each other. Tae-sung co-teaches these workshops with therapists and other survivors. He shares his story repeatedly, never sugarcoating his failures, always emphasizing the cost of his choices. At one workshop, a young man raises his hand. But how do you balance it? I mean, we still need to work. We still have bills, responsibilities. You're right, Tae-sung acknowledges. I'm not saying quit your job and ignore all responsibilities. I'm saying examine your priorities. Ask yourself, am I working to live or living to work? Am I present when I'm home, or am I just physically there while my mind is elsewhere? He pulls out his phone, the same model he once checked obsessively. I still have this. I still respond to emails. But from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m., it stays in a drawer. Those hours belong to life, to relationships, to being present. And you know what? The world doesn't end. The emails wait. The deals happen or they don't. A woman in her 50s speaks up, her voice thick with emotion. My husband died last year. He worked until the day before he died, literally taking business calls from his hospital bed. And now I'm alone with his money in his empty office and nothing else. Please listen to this man. I'd give every penny we have for one more dinner where my husband actually saw me. On the 5th anniversary of Hyejin's death, Tae-sung returns to Pyeongchang, to the traditional house where she spent her final months. He's maintained the property, visiting several times a year. He brings his violin, the one she taught him to play. Sitting on the porch as the sun sets over mountains, he plays the silent years, the piece she composed for him. He's not skilled, but he plays with feeling, with presence. And as he plays, he thinks about everything that's changed. The foundation, the couples he's helped, the seeds of awareness he's planted. After he finishes, he hears applause. Turning, he sees an elderly couple walking by. Locals who remember when Hyejin lived here. You've gotten better, the old woman says kindly. Your wife will be proud. She's the one who taught me. Tae-sung replies, not just the music, everything that matters. They sit with him for a while, sharing stories about Hyejin's brief time in the village, how she brought music, how she smiled despite her pain, how she talked about her husband with forgiveness rather than bitterness. She said, something I never forgot, the old man shares. She said, my husband had to lose me to find himself. I hope he helps others find themselves without losing someone first. Back in Seoul, Tae-sung receives an unexpected letter. It's from the CEO of his former company, the empire he abandoned. The letter is brief. Mr. Kim, I'm writing to inform you that the board has voted unanimously to establish an annual award in honor of your late wife, the Hyejin Kim Award for Work-Life Integration. It will be given to executives who demonstrate exceptional leadership while maintaining strong family relationships and personal well-being. Additionally, we're implementing new company policies, mandatory vacation time, no emails after 7 p.m., and required work-from-home flexibility for employees with family health issues. Your transformation taught us that the best leaders are whole people, not just brilliant strategists. We're trying to build a company culture where no one has to choose between success and presence. Your former colleague, Chairman Park. Tae-sung reads the letter twice, feeling something close to closure. The empire he built is evolving into something better, something that might prevent others from making his mistakes. 10 years after Hygene's death, Tae-sung stands in the original foundation building, now a thriving hub of healing and music. The walls are covered with photos and letters from patients and families who found comfort here. A young journalist interviews him for a documentary about the foundation's impact. "Do you have any regrets?" she asks. Tae-sung considers carefully. "I regret every moment I wasn't present for my wife. I regret the years we lost. I regret that it took her dying for me to wake up. But I don't regret where that pain led me, to this work, to helping others, to finally understanding what it means to truly live. What would you say to the person you were 10 years ago?" "I'd say, that phone call you're ignoring could be the most important one you ever miss. That business deal that seemed so critical will be forgotten in 5 years, but the person waiting for you at home will remember forever whether you showed up. I'd say, you think you're building a legacy through your company, but your real legacy will be how you made people feel. And what would you say to your wife if you could speak to her now?" Tae-sung's eyes fill with tears. "I'd say, thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for loving me even when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for teaching me, even in death, how to really live. And I'd say, I hear you now. Finally, I hear you." The documentary ends with Tae-sung teaching a children's violin class at the foundation. A little girl struggles with a difficult passage, getting frustrated. "It's okay," Tae-sung says gently. "Music isn't about perfection. It's about expression, about connection, about being present in the moment. Try again, and this time, don't worry about making mistakes. Just feel the music." The little girl tries again, and though her playing is still imperfect, there's joy in it now. She smiles at Tae-sung, and he smiles back, fully present, fully there. In that moment, with sunlight streaming through the windows and music filling the air, Tae-sung feels Hyejeon's presence, not as a ghost or a memory, but as a living legacy. In every note played, every couple reconciled, every person who learned to choose presence over productivity. He has finally become a man she always believed he could be. The greatest success is not in what we build, but in how we love. The truest wealth is not counted in currency, but in moments fully lived and people deeply cherished. And the most important call we'll ever answer is the one from the person saying, "I need you. Please be here. Please be present." Don't wait for a crisis to learn what Tae-sung learned. The people you love are calling you right now. Will you answer?